Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the market review with us here at EasyFX Academy. I am going to be, as concise as possible with today's video. Also, last week was interesting, and I think this week we also have enough opportunities to make use of even from the market. All right. So one thing I'm going to tell you before I go on is that every single idea or every single bias I give you is something that you can go back to your charts, right? Cross check, and also work like I usually tell you, work with your own entry confirmations or entry criteria for each of those trades. But this video or this session basically is just to give you an overall idea of the bias that you can work with, all right, during the course of the week, especially from a swing perspective. Funny enough, I'm not going to be starting on gold today. All right, I know that might come as a shock to some of you here. All right, but I'm not going to be starting from gold. I'm going to be going first up into AD card, right? AD card. Yeah. So remember last week we basically were expecting a very, very long, not necessarily this long anyway, we were expecting a buy on AD card from somewhere around here. We got to see, price came to the zone, we got to see our buys. We even had the second re-entry, and the price basically, I think last I checked was about almost a, if at all you took it from that point, all right, isn't the stop loss and everything was almost a 1:23 sort of trade by now, right? But it's very, very crazy, very, very beautiful move that we've gotten to see from the markets between last week and this week. So what exactly do I expect right now? I'll give you two scenarios, and I'm going to start from the daily time frame, and I'm going to drop to maybe the 30 minutes time frame to explain further. All right. So if I'm going from the higher time frame perspective, daily time frame, maybe even also the weekly time frame, obviously I'll be expecting that price should be getting attracted towards this high here. This is around 0.95. Sorry, give me some time to get the exact coordinates. 0.95479. Now, like I said, I usually tell you these values might vary depending on your broker, but right, somewhere around there, right? I'll be expecting price to eventually come towards there and take out that high. Now, if I thought that is something I'm having at the back of my mind, when I come to lower time frames, I should hopefully see re-entries for the buys. All right, if I'm expecting price to continue bullish. Right, already we've seen there was some level of reaction, around here. Now, this is just a range I sort of marked out. Let me go back to the 4 hour time frame, sorry, was it on the daily time frame? Right, this is just sort of a range I marked. I think it was on a daily time frame. Let me just confirm. Sorry. All right, let me just confirm that. Yeah, so I think that was on a daily time frame, right? Basically, price is inside here. So we've seen a couple of reactions already. We've seen the first thought, we've seen some level of rejection. Then price basically has come into that zone again. So definitely to some extent, I'll be expecting price to break above that zone, or right, and then we should get our buy. So I'm going to give you the first point for the possible buy re-entries if at all we get one. Now this one is going to be a bit too conservative because this is quite deep and it's just the use of the gap that we got to see being left behind. I do not think necessarily the price will come back there, but all the same, I'm still going to give us the value for us to just have at the back of our minds between 0.94542 and second coordinates is between 0.94507. So around there. Obviously, if I'm still expecting the buys to continue, let me go back to the daily time frame. Uh, give me a minute, give me a minute, give me a minute, give me a minute. Let me jump to the. So maybe around here. All right, that is if at all we get to see, if at all we get to see, sorry, if at all we get to see, a break and retest sort of scenario happening. So something like this, right? Something like that is what I'll be watching out for. Let me just, yeah, so something like this is what I'm watching out for. Since we've already seen some level of rejection inside that range already. All right, so again, that will still be between, I think I gave us the coordinates for this one earlier, but let me call it once more. Maybe I should use my, let me see if I can mark it out. So that's between 0.95005 and the second the second end to that range would be 0.94891. All right, so between 0.95005 and 0.94891, that'll be the range I'll be expecting for us if we're going with the bullish bias for a break and retest. All right, or for a break and retest, for the bullish bias, and whatever path you decide to take. But basically, that is what I'll be holding on to right now for AD card, and I hope, and I'm very sure that's clear anyway. So definitely we'll still be coming back to gold, but that will possibly be the last thing I'll talk about because I think I'm going to need to take a bit more time to explain what I'm currently seeing from there or on there rather. So next up, CAD JPY. So in this case that we've seen, continuous bullishness for CAD JPY for a couple of weeks now, we're going to see a sort of break or a below this low happening. Now, if at all we've seen that, all right, I expect that to some extent, eventually we would have a level of retracement for price to, move up, and then we get to see the continuation for the sales. All right, if that is what we're having at the back of our mind, then easily we can just work with, the just a basic retracement and then continuation for the sell, right? We can just work with maybe a previous support or a previous demand that has been broken, or if at all we're looking up, we might be able to get a previous supply demand zone that's situated somewhere around there. So let's jump to maybe the 2 hour time frame. Now this definitely is one, all right, but I won't be. This will be a lot deeper if I'm going to be marking out this one sincerely. This is going to be a lot deeper. All right, this is a lot further from where I would expect us to use, or I'll be more comfortable with us using for this trade. All right, this is between, and it's quite large again, this is between 115.129 and 114.554. All right, like I said, that's quite far, and I do not necessarily expect our price would have all the time to get towards that point before we get to see our drop. So if we do not get to see, the drop go from here, then I think I'll be more comfortable working with just this previous support that should then become resistance at this point. That's around 114.104. So I'll be expecting price to eventually maybe still drop a little bit towards the downside, give us this move, sort of this move, and then we get to see the continuation for the sales. Though even though overall my bias at the moment is still bearish for CAD JPY. Let me just clarify that, you know, on the charts right now. So this is one thing I'm looking at. So I need to confirm. I remember I was going to talk about something. All right. So let me confirm that again. So let me withdraw some of these things. So just for the sake of clarity, just for the sake of clarity. So maybe a little bit drop, and then maybe something like this. All right. Let's forget about the first one for now. So this will be one. Now scenario. No, sorry. Scenario number two would be for us to Scenario number two will be for us to expect that now that we've seen price give us, taking out this liquidity here and this liquidity here, we might actually get a bullish move happening very time soon. All right, and if truly now the reason why I'm considering this also is because like I think we mentioned earlier, we do have overall bullishness even on the daily time frame. All right, the basic structure that we're seeing on the daily time frame is still bullish. We've not had any confirmation for price changing character at the moment, right? So if I'm going to pick out one simple one here, I'll I would, sorry, I would want to work with maybe somewhere like here, or I think price basically hasn't come there to test. That looks like a fair enough, region that we might be able to work with. All right, so maybe that is where I'll just, sit out for right now. Right. Let me check back to daily time frame. Give me a minute, please. Yeah, so that's around 111.409 and 110.631 for the possible buys from there. So I won't see, a sell to buy, then possibly a sell if at all. Now, this current sell, I'm not going this last sell like I marked out here is not something I'm going to work with right now. It's not going to be an immediate thing. I want to see price get there first before I start assuming that, oh, we're cool for the sales. But basically, I want to still see price for buys. I'm watching out for here, and for sales, I'm watching out for, that 114.104 region that I mentioned earlier. All right, so that's it for CG. Let's go to Euro AD next. I think we've not done that in quite a while, but I think we might have something interesting on EA. Was it EA? Yeah. Give me a minute, please. Let me just confirm. Right. So EA. Apologies. Let's go to the 4 hour time frame. So I'm coming up. I'm trying to confirm if it is EA or ECAD. I think it's EA. I remember I marked out one on CJ earlier that I was going to, bring to our notice. But let's look at EA together first, right? Let's quickly look at EA. All right, so daily time frame again. I think I'm just going to go overall for this one. So daily time frame is already telling us, is already painting a picture to us, right, that we are bearish. And right now, I've seen a sort of slowdown in that momentum of bearishness. Right, so I'm just going to give us a fairly simple, just to some extent, region that we might watch out for us to use here. Yeah, so that's previous support that has been taken out, has been broken rather. All right, so we might get to still see price come up into somewhere around there, and then we'll get to work with that region for possible buys. Maybe somewhere around there will be where I'm watching out for. Sorry, for possible sales rather. Maybe that is where I'll just hold on to for the meantime on Euro AD. That's between 1.73542 and 1.73077 on Euro AD. All right, I hope that's clear for you guys. EJ will be next. Now, I think something similar to what I have mentioned for was it CJ? It's what it's still what I'm seeing here, right? So for the buys, I'll just remember, the explanation I gave for CJ, something similar to what I'm seeing here right now. So for the buys, I still want to watch out for this region around 181.267 and 180.104. Now, if I drop down to the 4 hour time frame, we look at regions that we might be able to work with for possible sales. All right, this will be the first one here, around 184.826. Now, for these regions where I'm just marking out supply and demand, support and resistance, it is better for you to work with lower time frame confirmations before taking any of those ones. All right, don't just jump into them. Your entry to your stop loss will be quite wide if you do that. All right, so this is fair enough for us to work for the buys. All right, but for the sales, maybe from somewhere around here, if we get to see price, give us that pullback or that retracement into that region, then we get to see the continuation from there. But that's it for Euro JPY without taking too much of your time. Next up, I'll just do EU and GU. So I'll do EU, GU, and maybe one other commodity, and then we'll call it a session. All right, so EU, GU, basically EU has already reconciled with its overall bullish movement. All right, we saw that last week. We had around between ending of December and last week we saw price giving us bearish movements. Already we've seen price tell us, or show us that definitely it wants to continue for the bullish narrative. And if I go into the 2 hour time frame, let me drop down to the 2 hour time frame, so something that we can just work with immediately. This would be the 2 points I'll be watching out for possible buys from. I think I marked out one of them on maybe the 1 hour time frame, or 45 minute time frame. So this is just this one I'm just working with here. Right, so that's just a simple demand region that I want to possibly see play out during the course of the week. So this is something that I just believe we should get to see more immediately. Region between, or zone rather, buy region between 1.17989 and 1.17786 for the first one, and for the second one between 1.7558 and 1.17 319. Again, 1.17558 and 1.17319. Remember that the overall bias is bullish, right? So we're still working with the bullish bias, so I'm holding on to somewhere like that for the move. Right. So give me a minute. I need to just make sure that we're still on the same page here. Yeah, I believe so. Again, after we've seen this sort of retracement, though this retracement to me, this one here, all right, wasn't should I say sufficient enough? We had this as the high. Okay, this was the pullback. All right, so it's still fair. Doesn't mean this is just a region for. This is just a point that could easily work out as the origin of the move that broke structure in this case. So let's just have that at the back of our minds for now. On Euro USD. So I believe something similar is also what we have, or rather I have on GBP USD. All right. I will be done in the next. After this, I think I'll just take one more commodity and then we'll be done for today's session. Give me a minute, please. I need to check something. All right, apologies for that. So back to what I was saying, right? So for GU, let me start from the daily time frame. Already though we've seen something similar to what we're seeing on EU. We're still definitely bullish. All right, we're still definitely bullish. If I drop down to the 2 hour time frame, yeah. So this 2 hour time frame. So I just have these points marked out. So something similar, like I said, just something similar to what we just explained on EU, right? And these 2 points are just simple, although I'm seeing something else I might want to mark out. But those 2 points basically are just demand regions that we have on the lower time frames that I believe we can work with. All right, any of them can be broken, but as always, I'll tell you to watch out for lower time frame confirmations of your choice, all right, before taking any of them. All right, so demand zone 1 is between 1.36102 and 1.35918. Demand zone 2 is between 1.35363 and 1.35119. That's it for GBP USD. If you heard the explanation I gave for Euro USD, it's just basically the same sort of thing that we are watching out right now for on GBP USD. Now, last but not definitely not the least, for today's session will just be USD CAD, and I'll explain the bias as comprehensively as possible. So let's start from the daily time frame, right? Because I need to zoom out and show you a couple of things. So now, basically, we've seen massive bearishness since November, all right, which we've now seen some level of correction. Especially this past couple of weeks. This was ending of December. At least till this. So when that was last week or so, that we got to see that sort of bullish move from this region. I think this was a region we both marked out during one of our sessions together. Now we have number one, we have trend line support that is basically sitting around there, which I still believe should still give us some level of some level of strength or some level of assurance, all right, at that point in time. If at all we have, I'm going to give you a simple thing that I can just watch out for. If at all we have the daily candle, right, we should close in the next 6 hours 40 minutes or so. If at all we have the daily candle closing bullish, then I would expect that price should at least give us that reversal up till maybe somewhere like here. This will be, if at all we are going to see a long move, right, this will be TP1, then possibly we might have price still going higher from there, because I still want to see the possibility of us having this current momentum continue. All right, and this why. So this looks to me, that's why I just want to confirm. That's what I'm saying. I want to see, the daily candle close bullish. All right. So if I get to the daily candle close bullish, then definitely that gives me the assurance that there's every possibility for us to just see price continue towards the upside from there. Again, like I said, that should happen in about 6 hours, 40 minutes or so. Right. So no rule number one, or point of action number one, see the daily candle close bullish from there. And yeah, that basically is it. So that's it for the buys. If I'm watching out for the buys, number one, I want to see the daily candle close bullish, and then I want to drop to maybe the 15 minutes time frame, or maybe even the 5 minutes time frame to work out my entries from. All right, but for the sales, if at all, maybe we are going to watch out for sales. If at all, this will be where I'll just be watching out for. This will be the region I want to see the possible sales happen from. This anywhere around this around 1.37 what? So give me a minute. Um, forgive me. 1.3 1.37819. All right, that basically is where I want to watch out for possible sales from, if at all we get that opportunity. And it's not something that is looking so sure, for us to get right now from what I'm seeing. All right, I do not believe we're going to see sales yet. I believe that from now, maybe we're just going to see price continue bullish, and maybe even see a very long swing, as the case would be. But this is just what I'm going to leave with us rather for the meantime. Remember, the essence of this video is just to give you sort of bias that you can work with, and then let's just see how we can incorporate that to the type of trades that we are going to be taking during the course of this week. All right, thank you very much for joining us for today's session. By all means, practice proper risk management, and I'm very sure we are going to have a profitable week ahead, guys. Have a lovely rest of your week. Bye bye.